How's it going?
Okay.
Oh, that was nice. I like that.
Thank you. I made that one. But thank you today at our RG podcast. This is Isaiah Diesel, joined after a 30-minute delay from a very special guest, Mr. Brennon Kim. Is that right?
That's correct. And how you doing, everybody?
And all right. So, first and foremost, may I ask where you're calling out of?
Oh, I'm calling out of Seoul, South Korea at this time.
So, South Korea. And I'm actually also coming out of Korea, but I live at the very bottom, which is in Mokpo, South Korea. Any
Oh yeah.
chance you've ever heard of Mokpo?
Just recently, like maybe 2 minutes ago.
So the weather's down here is pretty fierce. In fact, it was messing up with the internet a little bit. But how's the weather up there in Seoul?
It's roughly the same. Just cold, really. There's a little wind here and there, but mainly just
Mm-hmm.
cold.
And I said the first time around, I'm just getting over the COVID-19 virus. Luckily, I was vaxxed, so that played a pretty big part. And mostly, I was just weak. Like I'm always weak. I was just a little bit weaker than normal because I was taking a look at your pictures, and you got like this 6-pack or 8-pack going on. So I'm pretty sure if you got the virus, you'd probably tap it out in a couple of days, right?
I hopefully, but first and foremost, I apologize. I'm sorry that
Yeah.
you had to go through the COVID
Thank you.
situation. It's I heard about the symptoms, and it's no joke. Like people have died from it and things like that. So actually, my uncle passed away not so long ago with COVID being
Really?
one of the primary reasons for it. So
Wow. Wow. Definitely condolences. Actually, this last year, 2021, I had an aunt and an uncle and 2 cousins die within like 4 months. It was more death in my family than it happened in like the previous like 30 years. It was unbelievable. But I don't think any of them were COVID related. But that being said, first and foremost, we always like to have a friendly fire around here. So we're going to ask you some questions that don't really have anything to do with anything, but just some
okay.
random questions. So you ready for that?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Okay. All right. So what is your favorite exercise to do?
My favorite exercise is lifting a potato chip from the bag to my lips. No, I'm joking, but
Curl. If you do it in
my
this position, it could be
yeah, just get the biceps. But in all seriousness, my favorite exercise to do really is sparring. That's like my
sparring.
favorite exercise. Yes, I love
Uh,
sparring.
yeah, that's probably the one you could get hurt the most, though, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So okay, here we go. Next one is favorite horror franchise of all time.
My favorite horror franchise of all
Mm-hmm.
time, it would have to be ooh, there's
I know it's a tough
it's
one.
called this is really tough when but I'm a huge horror fanatic, so it'll
Okay,
have to be
okay,
the
okay.
Saw series. It'll have to be the Saw series.
Salt?
Saw Jigsaw.
Oh, Jigsaw. God, I remember that one first coming out like 20 years ago, whenever I was in college. That legitimately scared me. That movie legitimately, especially when that little guy comes out on the bicycle, man, that really scared me. But okay, you know what? I wasn't going to ask you this one. This was a change up because I always ask this one. But since you're a horror fanatic, I'll go ahead and ask you as well. But what is your favorite? Oh, no. If you were going to die at the hands of any horror character, who would you want to die at the hands of?
Ooh, if I had to
I know it's
die
a rough
by
one.
any, if I had to die by any person, it would have to be Freddy
Or
Krueger.
thing. The what?
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, it's funny. That's like 50% at least what everyone says. But it's a pretty sadistic question to ask. But okay, here we go. And last one. We're going to. All right. favorite food and favorite cheat food. Okay,
My favorite
favorite food
food
and
would have my favorite food would have to be steak all day steak, and my cheat food is hamburgers. But I eat hamburgers all the time. So,
oh,
uh,
being American, I try to explain this sometimes. Like being an American in South Korea, like oh, I have to have hamburgers. It's like the one thing if I don't, I feel like I'd start to become like a different species altogether if I wasn't able to get hamburgers. So, what's your favorite hamburger? Just out of curiosity.
in America, it was just the original double cheeseburger, but in Korea, it's called the I don't know. It's called like it's a new burger came out 4DX. It's with the beef patty and bulgogi, like Korean bulgogi style of beef. So it's combined. So the 4DX at Lotteria, there's actually a really good burger. I ate that like twice.
Lotteria. Lotteria is the equivalent of Korean McDonald's. So, okay.
Yes.
All right. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a quick 5 minutes. I want you to introduce yourself, where you're from. I want you to tell me how you got into MMA, how you got to South Korea, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. So, you got 5 minutes, and I'm just going to give you the reins. So, you just talk your head off as much as you want, and I will put you in the main seat, and let's hear it.
Okay. Well, here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Brennon Kim, also known as the Slayer. Uh, I was a United States Marine combat veteran at a 3rd Battalion 9th Marine Regiment, where I deployed to Afghanistan and did 2 deployments there.
Wow.
And afterwards, I came back home after being wounded, went to Wounded Warrior Battalion,
Wow.
and from there, martial arts actually was a recovery for me. I was doing
Wow.
martial arts since I was a kid, but I got back into it because I had severe PTSD from Afghanistan,
Wow.
and they asked what was my recovery plan. And I said I wanted to get back into martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I started doing martial arts training 10 hours plus a day, and
Wow.
I would start doing American kickboxing, and I would go to have a undefeated record for 2 years,
Wow.
and that's before I met Derek Brunson, UFC fighter Derek Brunson.
Dear. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Well, his fighter James Brown was the first person who handed me my first loss in American style
Ouch.
kickboxing. So it was a humbling experience, but me and him are good friends. It doesn't matter about that.
Mm-hmm.
But after kickboxing, I went to Taekwondo, started fighting Olympic style Taekwondo, and then
Korea.
it was in Korea. I fought in the States, and I fought against a couple Olympians, and then came to Korea, and I fought in Korea Taekwondo. And it wasn't until one of my bros, Chris Barnett, he came and fight, and that was before he got into the UFC, and he went to fight in South Korea, and I went to his fight, and I saw him get knocked out, but everyone was mocking him and all that stuff at the time,
Uh-huh.
and I was really upset. So I told my friend, like, look, I'm about to get into MMA, and originally I got into MMA so I could start training to fight and actually go after the guy that knocked him out.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I met the guy. He was a really humble guy, and I just started training MMA. And originally, I went out for one championship, which is like the Asia's UFC.
Okay.
So I went out for one championship. I was the first foreigner to go out for one championship in South Korea. It was One Warrior
Mm.
Series back in 2018. And then
Mm.
after I didn't get into the actual house of like competing, I went to start fighting in Road FC Amateur League.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few fights there, I left and did my pro debut 2019, and I started fighting F2 MMA, then other promotions. Then I recently fought Double G, and I just had a fight with GFC.
GFC. And
And
what do you fight at? Welterweight? or
When I did
lightweight?
my when I fought at amateur, I fought at welterweight, and then my pro debut was welter, and then I decided that it was not really my cup of tea, so I went down to lightweight,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to I'm thinking about it. I talked to my wife about it, but I'm thinking about moving down to featherweight as well.
Featherweight is 145.
Yes,
Wow. Wow. And how tall are you?
I am 182 centimeters,
Okay,
which is
I'm trying
roughly
to
like
break that.
5 foot
Five foot
12, six
nine,
foot, like five
six.
foot,
Okay, okay. I'm
roughly six
American,
feet.
so got to try to convert that. But okay, all right. And can I ask you real quick, how long have you been in South Korea for?
Ooh, I came here since 2015, so roughly about maybe a little over 7 years.
7. All right. So, real quick, first of all, thank you for your service. That's amazing. My mom actually was a Vietnam veteran, and my sister actually was stationed here in South Korea. So, uh, definitely, that's really strongly in my family. My mom, when she passed away, she had the whole like gun salute. Man, it was quite an amazing thing. But okay, so let's see. Where do I want to start off? There's so many questions to ask you, but wow. All right. Actually, before we get into that, I do want to ask you real quick. I really have to acknowledge this. Congratulations on. I think I saw a picture of a little baby. Was that someone else's
Yeah.
baby? Or was that yours? Or
Oh yeah, it's my baby. It's my son. He'll be here in May. So thank you. But yeah, but he's not the only one.
April,
I have
May?
another
Oh
son that
God! April, May. You're like
mm,
two, oh, next month. It's next month. No, no, no. 2 months.
uh,
2 months. Okay.
like roughly 2 months. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Actually, my daughter was born right in the Olympics, so we obviously just celebrated her 4th birthday. And
Oh,
did you
congratulations.
say
Yeah.
he?
It's a little boy. I have two little boys. I adopted my wife's first kid, and he's 10, and I have the new
Wow.
son. He's on the way. So I have two boys actually.
Yeah. So I got to show you this, and this is going to be inside, but not many people are going to get this. So you can explain that why that's a big deal. Can you see it?
I'm trying to. I can't really see where is it.
Right here,
What
right
is
here.
that?
Did you make
The
myself big? Hold on. I'll make myself big. Can you see this? This is a, okay, so if you can't see it, I will explain it. It is a yin yang in Korea's colors.
Oh wow, that is
Yeah, right,
patriotic.
right.
Wow.
No, but why?
Yeah.
Why is that a big
Oh,
deal to you? Why is that a big deal to you?
is a big deal to me because well it represents was I had the union on my chest as well. So
Yeah,
I'm really
exactly.
shocked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know, right?
uh, oh yeah, because
I
it
was just,
represents. Oh, what were you saying?
well, no, please continue.
I was saying what it represented for me was that the light and darkness and etc. So far like that. Like a lot of people,
Hmm.
so it represents a big thing for me. Things like that. So
Yeah.
it means a lot to me because I got it when I was still in the service actually before Afghanistan.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, I actually got this before I came to South Korea, but that concept of like balance was something that really interests me. So I like to say it's for Korea because it's over my heart. I feel like in a lot of ways South Korea is my home, and I'm married to a Korean, and my daughter's Korean, so we have something very much in common. But okay, getting into MMA, I do want to ask you a couple of things. One about training, and then actually about actual competition, and we'll try to talk about some other things along the way. But first and foremost, what is the most enjoyable aspect of MMA apart from actually winning? Like, because I can imagine that's like a great feeling, but what is the most rewarding element of it?
the most rewarding element is that for me, I love fighting. I've I've been fighting for a long time actually. Because originally I wasn't going to do MMA until
Mm-hmm.
the incident. Because I at first I thought it was a blood sport, which is ironic because when I was in high school I was doing the backyard street fights and things like that. And
Really?
Yeah, I
Hey,
have a 1-1 record.
that's how Jorge Masvidal got started. Was that?
Yeah, I have a 1-1 record. Been doing the backyard street fighting back in high school. There was a
Hmm.
guy that was like, "Hey, you want to fight?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he was Golden Glove, and then I fought twice that day. And I fought
Dang.
the guy. He was Golden Glove, and then afterwards I had fight again, and that guy I knocked him out. And then
Wow.
afterwards, that's when I just felt like, okay, this is something that I may want to do later, but I didn't take it really seriously. So I have, yeah, 1-1 record in backyard street fighting. I fought a lot in school. Then I did wrestling in school and things like that. So I just always had that need to just be in a situation where it was violent. I don't know why.
Hey,
It was like a drug.
hey, really quick, you mentioned Chris Barnett. Is he that dude who like did that back kick and kicked someone, and then he did like a front flip and landed on his butt?
Yeah,
That
that's
was him,
him.
right? That's
That's him.
crazy. That's crazy. All right. So, speaking about blood sport, I do want to ask you something. I do want to get into a little bit later, but that is kind of like the ethics of MMA, because I am a little bit. I do have a little bit of cognitive dissonance as far as that goes, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But see, what is the hardest thing about training for what you're going to do? Like training.
Uh, the hardest thing of training is trying to make it through fight count. Because back, I think the one thing that really the training is not bad. It's just some people don't make it through training. And one time for one of my fights, I didn't even make it to the fight because I was in the hospital for like a month. So
Yeah. Oh my
there's no guarantee.
gosh.
Like I had broken and fractured ribs. I had a torn ACL, torn meniscus. I had emergency surgery and things like that. And I
Wow.
was in hospital for a month. Then that's actually how I
What
met
is
my
this?
wife. This was back in 2021, January.
Jeez, you're talking about last year. This is just last year.
It was just last year.
Wow. Wow. Um, wow. So just that I've seen sometimes some of the pictures that people, the aftermath of some of those matches, and it is honestly, I don't know whether to say like commendable or whether or not you just think this person's just a fool to keep taking that kind of abuse and to keep going forward. Like part of me is like, wow, that's amazing you could do that. But part of me is like, you're an idiot for doing that, because it seems like you have to have like a sixth sense, like something that's pushing you that like 99% of people couldn't get through that, you know?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Um, it's uh, it's really not a sport that should be taken lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this sport, especially on the professional side, you're going to get hit a lot. You get hit a lot
Mm-hmm.
in training. You get hit a lot in sparring. You get hit a lot in competition. You're going to get hit. So unless you like getting hit, is going to you're going to have a hard time if you just join it just because you see Conor McGregor doing it. Like a lot of people do that, and they start training and they realize it's not for them. So you have to really like getting hit a lot. You have to love that moment of glory, whether it's winning or losing. You have to embrace all of it, because if you can't embrace it, you're gonna have a very hard time in MMA.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's another question. Going along with that, are you familiar with Chael Sonnen?
Oh, Uncle Chael! Oh my goodness!
Chael
I, I,
Sonnen.
wa- yeah, I
Uncle
watched him
Chael.
growing up
Yeah.
when I was a
So
kid. Yeah.
okay. Well, okay. So I'm not sure specifically what I'm referring to is that he does a lot of MMA. He has a podcast, but he does a lot of commentary. And the things that he talks about is like, I was just talking to this with my sister because she's a lot more into MMA than I am. and I watch it so I can keep up with her to have something to talk about. She's back in America. She's the one who's actually stationed in Korea. So, but watching him, he breaks it down on so many different levels that are like, wow. And one of the things that he said that really stuck out to me was that he says, if you're in a gym, if you're training and you're not getting punched, then something's wrong with that place. Like, you need to get out of it because they're not preparing you. They're not preparing you properly. And one of the things, I think Rocky Balboa, he says, it's not a matter of how hard you can punch, but it's a matter of how many times you can get punched and keep going. So that idea that, you are going to go through some serious pain. And so as humans, I don't know, you could scrap this up to evolution or whatever, but like, pain is just something that we naturally try to avoid. So how do you continue to put yourself through that? Is it just, are you trying to see something, a bigger picture, or just to test yourself? Or can you give me any thoughts on that?
Well, as a Marine, we always go off this motto:
Mm-hmm.
pain is weakness leaving the body. So, whenever I do get hit and things, you have to embrace it and keep going. There's in the gym, like I get hit a lot in the gym. Like, there's some days where I do well, and there's some days where I get destroyed. And honestly, as a fighter, you should be looking for people to destroy you, because if you get destroyed, then
Mm-hmm.
you won't get destroyed in actual competition. So, like, the people when I sparring and training partners, like, they're all like guys who are like legit, like undefeated champions, etc., so forth. And the reason for that is that it's better to learn now and get better, slowly, versus,
Right.
being overconfident and having that false sense of security, just beating up everybody. You're not going to know because you're undefeated in the gym. You're not going to know that
Yeah.
you're making this one little mistake. So you go out in competition, you get destroyed. You're like, oh, I don't understand. Then you leave the gym, blaming the gym, when really it's your fault because you're fighting only people that you can beat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All fighters know like their level, and they know where they need to go. But some are cocky and just stay there, and some are more humble, want to just learn more and
Right.
more. So
That makes sense. Yeah. So that is one of the biggest kind of drawbacks, but kind of, I don't know, I might call this a blessing in life, is that you don't ever learn anything unless you make a mistake or unless you get beat or something. So I can tell you, like, the times that I've had like a lot of money or a lot of things going for me, like, I didn't grow a whole lot personally, in those times. It's been some of the times where it's been the most difficult in my life that I've developed the most and grown. And it's like, sometimes going through it, you can't really see that, because it's like, because you're going through it, you just lost. Like, my sister just got the party nomination to get for the California, like, state assembly, and she's a supervisor right now. She was the president before, but she lost a Senate race, and she wound up saying that loss like helped her out the most, because it's times like that where you have to take a step back and, oh, what did I do wrong? How can I improve, et cetera, et cetera. So what are your thoughts on that, as far as losing, and about how that can motivate you to be better?
um, a person who cannot accept a loss uh, is a person that will never grow. So
Mm-hmm.
my pro debut, when I was actually fighting the guy, at first I was winning the fight, and then freak accident happened with my knee. I went out and it was over.
Mm-hmm.
However, it took me a long time to watch that fight because I didn't want to see myself in that position. But then it got to the point to where I was able to watch it later, and I had to say, hey, I gotta figure out what to not do because if I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be in that same situation again. So with that, losing and actually embracing the loss takes a lot of humility because if you
Mm-hmm.
keep thinking the way that you think before, then you're not going to really grow. So the same with your sisters, she had a battle, she lost, she took her loss like a lady, and she went back to it again, I believe. So I believe that
Yeah.
everyone should be humble, in wins or losses.
By the way, how do you know Chris Barnett or just
Oh, yeah,
was
yeah,
his
I know the whole family. Like we're really, really close. When I was in the States, I
really?
was his brother was my Taekwondo coach, and
No way.
I was dabbling in MMA and things
Um,
a lot.
no
His
way.
brother is just as deadly.
No way.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
his brother Curtis Barnett.
dude. I will say this. Good.
Oh yeah, his brother Curtis Barnett is just as deadly. Like the whole family is like just a bunch of killers. The Barnett, so
Yeah.
there are people you don't want to mess with. They're hardcore in Taekwondo.
You know what? I will tell you something funny. Like he should have not have been able to kick to. Is that a round? That's not a roundhouse, is it? Where you did? Is it called a spinning back kick? What is that
It's a
called?
spinning. It's like a spin. Is most people call it spinning
What
round,
hook?
but it's spinning hook kick. Spinning hook
Okay,
is the
spinning.
same
Okay,
terminology.
so there's no way that guy should have been able to do that. So I mean, just logistically, physically, physiologically, he shouldn't have been able to do that. But so you saw it, you're like, what? Actually, are you familiar with Don Fry?
Oh, Don Fry, yeah, he dude's a legend. Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely know
yeah.
about Don Fry.
I actually got to go to Tokyo and chill out with him in Tokyo,
Ooh,
he took me out to he took me out to a steakhouse. And at this steakhouse, because this is embarrassing, but I still love to watch professional wrestling. And so all of the wrestlers who are like anybody would go to this steakhouse. And so there's like pictures with Undertaker, like Austin, The Rock, everybody went into this place. But anyway, I watched another interview where he talked about, I think it was Mark. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Mark Coleman. But Mark Coleman, I could be wrong. I might have to look this up. But Mark Coleman beat him in a fight. And he said that he watched that thing like every day for months and months. He was like obsessed about how he lost. And with this podcast, I've been doing this a little over a year now. And some of these podcasts I've watched like literally, this is going to sound fake, but I've seen some of these like 20 or 30 times because I was so frustrated with my performance and because messing up and stumbling over words. And then I'd just be like, I'll say stuff like the universe is like 4 million years old. And I meant to say billion, but it's like I was just dissecting every last thing over, like kind of like OCD level. When I told some people that I watched it like 30 times, they're like, oh, it's like, why would you do that? But it's really trying to improve and trying to be better. And I think sometimes I'm really like my harshest critic because sometimes I would tell people like, yeah, I just feel like I feel like quitting this because I don't feel like I'm certainly not like a Joe Rogan or anything, but they're like, oh, what are you talking about? Like we love listening to you. So I think sometimes we can be our harshest critic. What's your advice to people who maybe they're a bit frustrated or they're thinking about giving up in whatever they're doing? Do you have any advice for a person like that?
uh, yeah. The My advice for people who are struggling is to keep going. Take a step back if you need to. Uh, yeah, take a step back, take a breather, relax, but don't quit because if you quit now, you'll always quit.
Mm-hmm.
There will never be any progress. So the best thing to do is to go for it.
Yeah, well, that's really good. So I want to break this up for a minute and talk about your wife. Um,
Okay.
you might have asked how long you guys been married?
It'll be a year in May, and the
Wow.
same time our baby's born.
I was gonna say you didn't waste any time, man. You're like got right on that.
I had to thank my coach because we were training for the fight, and then next thing you know I went in the hospital broken man, and I came out, and next thing you know I'm married and dad and all that
Wow.
stuff. So yeah,
Wow.
we met
You-
when I was after my surgery.
Well, if you really want to have another kid, I highly suggest you always wear a cup in and out of the ring, man, all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah, most
Just kidding.
definitely.
I'm just kidding. But okay, so let me ask you another question because so I'm Mexican, I'm a Latino, and you appear to be African American, maybe Jamaican or something.
I'm
Uh,
Nigerian.
Not actually. Wow, wow. Oh God, so you must love Kamaru. Oh my God, you must be like
Oh,
his. I know, right?
yeah,
Nigerian
Kamaru,
nightmare. We'll talk a little
Kamaru.
bit about. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about personal MMA after this because we know that there was a really big fight that just happened. So some professional stuff, but what is do you find cultural issues arising between? Or are you American or are you from Nigeria?
Oh, I was born in America, but my dad
Okay,
Nigerian, my mom's Nigerian. Yeah, so yeah,
yeah, and your mom is what?
my family's Nigerian. So yeah,
Okay,
my
wow,
dad
that's
is
great.
Nigerian.
Okay, so I love the Nigerian accent. Can you give me a quick like, hey, what's up in Nigerian? Can
Oh,
you do
how
that?
far? Welcome today. Today we're going to talk to you on the broadcast.
That's really good, man. Okay, so do you how do you like navigate that? Because I'll tell you this, there's in fact even to this day there's been some things that are like so incredibly minute and non like trivial. I would just call them absolutely trivial. And I stood entrenched in like, oh, my wife is making a big deal out of this. I'm just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I'll just give you one example because I cook a lot. I cannot eat white rice. Okay. Like, I mix it in, or like, because we're Mexican, we eat like Spanish rice. And so whenever I'm making food, I'll sometimes make like a stir fry and then I'll mix it together. And when I do that, my wife will not eat it. And I get so furious because I've spent all this time like slaving over to make this food and I've mixed something right. It's like it's all going to the same place anyway. And there's been sometimes I have been like literally wanting to throw the food across the house, but I had to take a step back and say, she does not like not eating white rice, and I cannot eat white rice. I have to mix it with something. So I had to take a step back and say, hey, if this is what she wants, I just got to respect it and just, it makes zero sense to me, but, culturally speaking, we never eat white rice, but I just have to respect this. So do you have any thoughts on that about navigating between the Easterner and the Westerner?
Um, yeah, you say any advice?
Any advice or just how you do it yourself?
What I do with my family and things, I
Mm-hmm,
usually try to make it as international as possible, but also
mm-hmm,
keep the Korean roots. So
mm-hmm,
there'd be some days where I say, hey, let's eat Korean food, and then
mm-hmm,
other days I'm like, hey, let's go eat Nigerian, let's go eat another culture
mm,
because if you keep eating the same thing, you don't learn. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I always try to like say, let's go eat German, let's go eat
mm,
Mongolian,
mm,
let's go eat another culture, not just Nigerian culture, not just Korean culture,
mm-hmm.
because most Koreans only eat just Korean food, so they don't learn about other cultures. Like you don't say, oh, this is a little similar to our culture. Like for example, there's a like a intestine soup that's in Korean. I forgot the name of it. It's a
I know what it
go,
is.
yeah, yeah. So, but
Sunday boop.
in Nigeria,
Sunday.
yes, Sunday goop, I believe is
Yeah,
or something like
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
it's
I
like,
know.
but then there's also one in
Uh,
Nigeria as well. So, just experiencing different cultures, you can learn a lot. Like, see, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of differences. So, I usually I will say any advice is to have the family to compromise and to keep it open mind.
Hmm.
And my wife, I'm really grateful to my wife because she keeps a very open mind. Her and my son as well keeps a very open mind with a lot of
Yeah,
foods.
that's good. That's good. It's interesting. Don Fry in his um, in his Hall of Fame speech, he was talking about he was talking about how difficult it was for his wife being married to him because she said that he basically looked like a mummy half of their marriage because he was always getting bruised up and stuff. So I can imagine that would be pretty hard on a spouse. Like, does that ever cause any kind of trauma or friction? Like, you come home with a busted lip or something, and your wife is just like, did she give you extra TLC, or does she just like, oh my baby, like I don't want you to do this anymore? Like, what's up with that?
As far as training, there's days where I come home and I'm like limping, and she's like, "Oh, was it really hard today?" I'm like, "Yeah," but I think the only time she is really a little bit on edge is when the actual competition comes. That's the
Mm,
only time where she's
hmm.
really just like, I don't know. The my last fight, she was really nervous, and being, almost close to the end of pregnancy, she's a little worried. So I just reassure her, I'm like, look, sweetie, the worst that's going to happen is that either I'm gonna get knocked out or I'm getting my arm broken. I said that's the worst that's gonna happen. I said
Oh, that's the
either way,
worst. Hmm.
yes. I said other than that, I said I will be coming home. I said, and I'll make sure that I'll come home at least 90% better, than most. So I make her that promise. I let her know, like, no
That's
matter
good.
what, I do what I can to come home, you know.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. So I do want to ask you. Oh yeah, okay. So I do want to ask you one thing real quick. I want you to tell me your greatest. I already know where welterweight's good. I'm going to put the Nigerian Nightmare at welterweight, but can you tell me your heavyweight, greatest heavyweight, uh, heavyweight, light heavyweight, welter, and let's see, what was the other one? Was it featherweight? Yeah, featherweight. So we're not going to go through all of them, but yeah. So heavyweight, greatest, your personal favorite of all time.
ooh, okay, heavyweight, greatest of all time will have to be. Have to. I hate to even say it because I don't
Velasquez,
even follow him as much, but it'll have to be, Daniel Cormier.
Cormier. Yeah, Cormier is bad.
He's the greatest of
Though,
all time. Like, yeah,
okay, Cormier. Um, though he did with this Stipe took him out the last few times. So Stipe might be in a few years he might be what we'd consider the goat. But okay, what about light heavyweight?
like heavyweight. Right now
Liddell,
there's the
all
devil.
time, all time, all time.
Of all time. There's a lot of competition now, but now the greatest light heavyweight of all time, I would have to say Jon Jones. I don't even like him,
Jones,
but
Bones.
you can't deny what he's done. Because
Okay,
technically
Jones.
he's undefeated. So uh,
Yeah,
other than that, like BS little call from before, but yeah,
yeah,
technically he's undefeated. He hasn't been beaten in skill
yeah. He
at all,
has it.
really. So
He
like
got
I
he
have to
got
say.
disqualified. But I think he see the fact that we even need to have a conversation about him though. If he would have kept his clean slate and not been messing around, like there would be no argument whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because I record wise, you can't really talk about that. But okay, welterweight. I'm gonna go
Well,
Nigerian Nightmare, right?
yeah, Kamaru. He honestly, I grew up watching UFC, and I've seen all welterweights. I've seen GSP. I've seen Matt Hughes.
GSP.
I actually met Matt Hughes when I was
Wow.
stationed in North Carolina as a Marine.
No
He's a
way.
great. He's good. T Wood, Tyron Woodley is the greatest, but I would say the greatest of all time is Kamaru Usman. He is a
Usman.
literal threat. Like he's
Yeah.
he's a threat. Like no one can
Uh,
touch him right now.
I told my sister Watching him break Colby Covington's jaw was the second greatest sight I've ever seen. Like Leah, my daughter, seen her born as number one, but a close number two was watching that dude get his jaw rocked. But actually, since then, I actually have become a bit of a Colby Covington fan because when I heard the background story to why he started to talk a lot of madness, it made a lot more sense because this podcast, I normally have like atheist co-hosts and I'm a Christian, but this podcast is just to have people sit down and talk about, which we're actually going to mention very briefly a little bit about God, but you know, conversations have online whenever you start disagreeing with people, it gets really ugly, you know? So unfortunately, I've had to do a little bit of trolling online to try to get people to watch this and try to be a little bit more controversial because it's just a reality. People prefer watching people screaming at each other or insulting people. And so when I understood why he did what he did, I'm like, well, I actually understand that side more than most people because I really am trying to change the way conversations happen online. But then you just got to understand, like, someone like Tucker Carlson, you know Tucker Carlson or
I think I've heard of him.
Sean Hannity. These people are just going to draw people in. And so if you have sponsors you're trying to, you know, appease, those are the guys you're going to want to go for, you know. Someone just sitting down and talking rationally and reasonable is not something that a lot of people want to see. So anyway, did you get to watch the fight today?
Oh, I did. It was good. It was good. It was good.
What was your fight? What was your favorite fight of the? Actually, I would have been here. I probably would have been able to catch with you, but I got Corona. I was in Seoul. I had to leave, so I had to come get quarantined. But what was your fight of the day? What did you think?
The fight of the evening would have to be the fight of the night. I would say it's really with I would say co-main event. RDA versus RDA versus Mochiano. That was a brawl. Like that guy is so tough. I've never in my life seen someone so tough and take so much punishment. But I would say that would be fight of the night. It's a co-main event.
I will say this: the Covington Usman is actually, I would have to say, my favorite fight of all time. Because you'll rarely ever see two people willing to stand up for 25 minutes together with each other. And that fight, the first fight, I'm talking about the first one, it was like the second latest finish ever because he got finished like at 24 minutes. So that was a personal favorite of all time. But do you have a personal... Good.
I'm sorry?
Do you have a personal fight favorite?
Oh, yes. My personal fight favorite that I have to say would be I have two, but I'm just going to give one.
Give them both.
Okay. The best fight of all time, number two would have to be it would have to be Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington would be number two.
Number two?
Yes.
You like number two? Okay. All right.
Because the reason being is because I'm a wrestler as well. So whenever you get two elite wrestlers in the middle of the octagon, the wrestling, they're both really good. It cancels out.
Mm-hmm.
So that you have no other choice but to stand and bang for 25 minutes.
Right.
But the number one, I'll have to say the best fight of all time for me would have to be T-City versus Korean Zombie.
Oh, okay.
The reason being is that everyone knows Brian Ortega is primarily a grappler. He's phenomenal grappler, like probably one of the best ground games in UFC. So for him to be able to sit there and do a striking contest with a kickboxer and damage him, it was amazing to see, you know. And Zombie is no slouch. He's one of the toughest fighters around, you know. However, it was amazing to see a grappler, you know, stand and bang with a striker.
Well, that's why they call him the zombie, because they said he keeps taking punishment like a zombie and keeps coming forward. But I do want to say this. I would say personally, the fight, which is Don Fry versus, I'm going to butcher that guy's. It's like Tokumaru. I'm going to butcher that. It's a Japanese guy. And they also call it like the hockey fight, because these guys grab onto each other and they just punch each other like 30 straight times, man. It's great. Yeah, they actually call it a hockey fight. So when I was there, we went out. I took him out to steak the first time, and we got to talk a little bit about that. That was pretty amazing. But so I do want to switch, kind of get into a little bit of a controversial side here. I got to say this. This is probably going to make you mad, but I got to say personally, like, let me just rewind back, because I literally remember the very first UFCs that ever happened. And this is whenever they were taking place once every like 3 months. So you'd only get to see like 4 of them a year. So you really got to know everybody because it was so limited. Now it's gotten so big, you can't really keep track of everyone. But I know some guys do. I know I have friends, cousins who know everybody. But the thing is, though, I remember the arguments that they were making, like about brutality. And if you take a look at especially someone like Francis Ngannou, that guy has knocked some people out where you're just like, God, that's like harsh, man. I mean, what was the one he hit the Obister? What's his name? Overeem?
Overeem, yeah,
I mean,
Overeem.
he uppercut that guy. I would definitely say that's the hardest knockout I've ever seen. You just see the guy. Actually, Kamaru and Gamebred, I gotta say that's probably number 2. You just see that guy's head just go flopping down. But I understand now the arguments that they're making, because one, there's a fighter safety issue, but 2, it's like that just can't really be good for a society whenever you're promoting that much violence. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think people who are watching, if that in any sense of the word, I know you're a horror fan, so I know there's people who have also made the argument about violent games or violent movies. I do have to say, for violent games, I have a hard time believing that, because if that were the case, South Korea would be like Mogadishu, because, you know, they play games all the time here. Nothing ever happens. So can you give me any thoughts on that?
As far as that goes, I think, how did Gimbre say? Just watch soccer or something? No, but I mean, honestly, there's always going to be brutality, and if we
Yeah.
go back in time, we'll see the ancient Greeks used to have the same thing called
Mm-hmm.
pankration, and you know they would tap by raising the pinky. So with that being said, there's always been brutality. You know,
Mm-hmm.
rather it's in one form or another. Now,
Uh-huh.
with that being said, like a lot of people can think MMA is brutal, but I will say the most brutal sport is boxing.
Yeah.
That's the most brutal sport, because why these guys KO'd like 2, 3, 4 times before it stopped. If there is any slight moment in MMA where you can't defend yourself, the fight is over. It's That's how it goes. And even today, if you look at the fight, the referees, you know, and things like that, they can call the fight because the guy was so messed up. He said to him, and I quote, Mark Goddard was the referee. He said, "You have 30 seconds to show me something. If you don't show it to me, I'm stopping the fight."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it goes with boxing. Like they'll say, "You're okay," and the guy, oh, that's okay, let's
Yeah.
go. You know, I'm like, and then one, I don't know how many boxers died. Like how many boxers died doing boxing? There was one guy, he
CTE
died.
too.
Yeah, CT is hard. Muhammad Ali, bless his soul, uh, messed up at the end of his career. You know, a lot of fighters are really messed up and have a lot of problems. You know, with
Yeah.
in regards to
So
boxing.
so there's 2 ways to look at that. One, you could say, all right, well, maybe they both should be illegal. But I would definitely have to, like, you wouldn't think so, because of the fact that people are wearing the gloves. You wouldn't think that about how do you call it, about boxing. But then also, you really wouldn't think the same thing about football because those guys are wearing helmets. So, um, Aaron Hernandez, any chance you're familiar with Aaron Hernandez?
Uh, it sounds familiar. I probably see a.
Okay, so he was a NFL player who wanted a tight end for the New England Patriots. He wound up killing three people, and he wound up shooting three people. And after he died, they took a look at his brain, and he was like 27 years, maybe 30 years old at tops. He is about 30 years old, but they said he had the worst case of CTE that they've like ever seen. They said like he had the mind of like an 80-year-old guy. And one of the things about the CT is because you're like, it happens whenever you make like sudden movements to your head, or your brain's like bouncing around a little bit. So if you think about someone keeps punching you and your head is going to the side, you could understand why that would be, how that could do that. And it doesn't really seem to the same extent that you could do that in MMA. Now, of course, MMA has only been legal, at least in America, for the last like 30 years. Because I remember I was like in sixth grade whenever it came out, the first one with Gracie and all that. So we haven't really seen, though, many of the guys who were in it for that long, like just, what do they call it? Like punch drunk, where you're just like, not like Muhammad Ali, you know, or where
yeah.
there's been like serious brain damage. So do you think that there's any kind of thing that they could maybe do to make it any safer? Do you have any ideas on that?
Honestly, there is no way to make it safe. Back in time when the UFC first kicked off with the Gracies and things, New
Mm-hmm.
York had a huge problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
And even the New York commissioner, I think he was commissioner or so at the time, he said, you know what, if you guys gonna fight, just at least put in a mouthpiece or something, you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that's how it started with that. So to be honest, the only way to make it safer is if you just don't have it at all. But it's impossible. It's a spectator sport.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to want to watch it, so it's never
Yeah.
going to go out of business. So with that
Uh-huh.
being said, the only way to be safe is if the referees have more of a class on when to stop the fight, because
Mm-hmm.
there's some corners who are not going to stop the fight, and there's some fighters who are not going to stop fighting. So
Yeah.
that's the only time it's going to be a huge problem. But so to speak, I would say referees should have a more of authoritative case on like stopping the
Yeah.
fight if they see too much damage or something like that.
I think as much as like people like to see it, the banning, the punching on the back of the head, that's probably a good idea. Or maybe one thing could be like no elbows or knees to the head, because that seems like that's potential to cause like serious damage. If you ever see the guys who have like really big gashes on their head, it usually comes from one of those two hits. But oh my god, I remember, and you could go back and watch these, man. Like watch like the first 10 UFCs. Those things were brutal, man. Like because the referees were kind of like said like don't stop the fight. Like if they throw in if they tap, stop the fight then at that point, or if they throw in the towel. But I saw one where this guy like knocked this dude out, and the guy's just sitting, he's laying there like laid out, and he has his head covered, and he like walks over to the cage, like starts bracing himself in the cage, and like just starts stomping on him. And then they finally threw in the towel, but it's like, oh my god, some of this stuff is pretty brutal. But let me ask you this: do you have any any other fights coming up? I believe you just lost the last one, correct? Did you get armbarred?
Oh
And
yeah, I
do you
did.
have any immediate plans for the future?
Oh yeah, I lost my armbar. The ironic thing is that I gave him that armbar. To be honest with you, like it was a rookie mistake,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, congrats to him. He got the job done. However, uh, I definitely underestimated him, and I gave him the armbar. I should have done way better with that, especially being a submission specialist. But you live and learn. But as far as the next
Mm-hmm.
fight, Hopefully April or whenever
April.
whenever the promotions stop playing around because the promotions here are very different. It's more different than the States. And it's in America, I can get a fight easy. You
Hmm.
know, just say, hey, I want to fight. They'll book it, go from there. But in Korea, it's really difficult, to really try to get a fight on your own in things. And if
Really?
yeah, like it's because here the promotion, there's some good promotions here, but for the most part, trying to get a fight and get the fight that you want and that will help you build your career, especially being an outsider, is really
Yeah.
slim to none.
I was
And it's
gonna
like
say that must be extremely hard being a foreigner, especially if you can't like you don't know the language or the culture. Like, do you have like someone who helps you with that here?
I do and things like that, but getting in a fight is not easy. Like as far as the fight goes, like I'll fight anybody, but to be honest, it's kind of boring to just get handed someone all the time. Like he's like, oh, we want you to fight this guy. We want you to fight this guy. We want you to fight this guy. And I'm like, that's cool. I'll fight anybody. It doesn't matter. But when would there be a chance where I say, hey, this guy is a tough guy. I want to fight him. When would that happen? Uh,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, everyone that knows me knows I'll fight anybody they put me against. But I mean, this is like from my amateur to my professional career, I have fought whoever they put in front of me. I never asked a
Yeah,
question.
I do want to say this. I would highly recommend you not going to featherweight. You want to know why?
How was that?
Because you might cross paths with the zombie man. So that's I would best. You're already in South Korea, so you might already encounter him then. But I would not want to mess around with that guy.
Mm.
That guy's pretty brutal. But
Uh,
all right. That was a joke. I'm just a total joke.
uh,
Um, South Koreans are really into zombies too, because you got Train to Busan, and then you have Kingdom going on right now. So they love zombies, that's for sure. But okay,
yeah.
real quick, I was wondering if you could. We'll do this really quick. But if you could give me, if you have any thoughts religiously, um, yeah, if you could tell me about that.
Oh, religiously,
Yeah, do you
like
do
religion?
you have a religion or
Oh yeah, I'm
family
Catholic.
Catholic?
Oh, yeah, I'm Catholic. My family's Catholic, so we're a Catholic family and things like that. I haven't been as devout as I
Hmm.
should. However, yeah, but I'm Catholic.
Do your is that like big in Nigeria?
In Nigeria, because I mean, I'm in America. It's a Christian country, but as far as Nigeria, the two main cultures is Christianity and
Catholicism?
Islam. Christianity with
Oh,
Catholicism included,
hmm,
and then
yeah, Islam.
Islam. Yeah, but the most Nigerians, if they're Christian, is mostly Catholic, and if they're
Oh,
other religion, is mostly Islam.
yeah. Is there a lot of violence with that? Because I know that Nigeria, I believe, it's like the biggest Islamic country in Africa. I know it's huge. There's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of
Uh,
Muslims there. So, does that ever
oh
flare
yeah.
up? Do you know?
I don't. As far as I've seen, really, there's really no religion fights in Nigeria
Oh,
that
okay,
I've
that's
saw.
good.
But
Yeah.
there is like there's a lot of corruption in Nigeria.
Hmm.
With SARS, that happened a while ago,
Hmm.
and a lot of police brutality, et cetera, so forth.
Hmm.
And
I
there was
bet.
times where I was going to go to Nigeria and visit. There's an MMA promotion there, so I was
Wow.
scheduling trying to get a fight to go to Nigeria and fight there in Nigeria. It's
Hmm.
amazing to go to the mother country and
Oh,
fight
I
there.
can't imagine.
But it was a lot of police corruption and a lot of things going on. A lot of my
Yeah.
friends in Nigeria say, look, just don't go. They say,
Yeah.
you want you to come home and visit home, just don't come right now. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, I actually know. Actually, personally, I know a few people from Nigeria. One of them is he's a prince, and he's apparently has some kind of diamonds that he's going to be sending me here. So really hope those arrive pretty soon. That's a joke.
Oh, nice. Oh man.
No, you get the Nigerian scammers and
Yeah,
everything.
I know, yeah.
So I would think. as a Protestant, that being Catholic, it kind of makes it a little difficult to be devout, because it seems like a lot of it is really like just like a lot of rules and a lot of like um, you could say the same thing about Christianity, but it seems like very. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's like a disconnect, like between there, 'cause especially you go to church and it's like I've been to Catholic church. It's like I mean I can't imagine how most people don't fall asleep going through one of the services. Like I had these people from Kazakhstan who were visiting me, and they have like Orthodox churches which are really close to Catholic churches, and we're Pentecostal. You know, my dad's a Pentecostal minister, and we took him to our church, and they were just blown away. They were like, I've never heard such beautiful music before, you know, because they come in and it's like chanting and stuff. So do you, and this is an honest question, do you find it difficult to be like devout as a Catholic? To me, that just seems like it would be very difficult. But go ahead.
Um, being devout, I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, being
Uh-huh.
devout is not the issue. But
Uh-huh.
after I lost my grandmother back in 2020, uh, I had a very hard time. So with that, I haven't really gone to mass at all, you know, because I've been struggling since my grandmother passed away. However,
When was
do
this?
I'm sorry.
When was this, by the way?
It was October of 2012 or
Oh,
2000,
okay. It's
2020. Sorry, 2020. My bad.
about two
Wow.
years.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. And when she passed, I kind of was just like angry. But
Mm-hmm.
do I still believe in the Catholic Church? Of course I do. I'm Catholic, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kind of just stayed away a little bit just to just really cool down. You know, it's a really hard pill to swallow when you lose someone that you really love and
Yeah.
cherished, you know. So it took a toll on me. But
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? I'll say this. My last grandmother died. My last grandparent died right when my wife was getting ready to give birth to my daughter, actually, just a couple of months before. And so that was really hard to see this generations between from my grandmother to me to my daughter, and knowing that my grandmother, my mother, unfortunately never got to meet my daughter. So that was a bit harsh. But I did get to write my grandmother a letter, which they read to her. I think she was like in a coma, but I was getting ready to be a father myself, and I told her she was just the root of our family tree, and everyone. I owed my existence to her, and my mother did, and my daughter will, and my grandkids all will. Came down to that woman, so it's a very moving thing that happened in my life. So I understand how that could affect you. So condolences there. All right. Well, we're going to close off here in about the next 10 minutes. And I just want to get into some last thoughts about MMA. Do you, um, do you, for younger people, actually, I know some kids, I know some kids who've done it. Like this girl who I know is into karate. I saw her daughter. She sent me a video of her daughter doing MMA, and her daughter's maybe like 9. I mean, we're talking about pint size, man. And she was doing MMA, dude. Like, and it looked like she wanted to kill this girl, man. She knew strategy. I mean, she was mounting and stuff. It was pretty intense. But um, do you think there's any other combat sports, like let's say like taekwondo or karate, that might be a little bit more conducive to like a younger kids, or boxing? What are your thoughts on that?
as far as combat sports, because in Korea, the youngest MMA fight I've seen was 5 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was adorable, but the kids were definitely fighting. Uh, but I would say personally, I would say the kickboxing is okay. but I would say traditional martial art like karate or something like that to first start off. Personally, I would not start a kid off with MMA at all
I bet.
because the first because MMA technically is a bastard style. It's a mixer style.
Hmm.
There's no foundation. There's no
Yeah.
foundation. So
Hmm. That's true.
if you take a kid and you put that kid just in MMA, when he gets into a really tough fight and yeah,
Oh,
so
sorry.
if you oh no, you're fine. So yeah, MMA is a bastardized style, and if you put a kid in just in MMA, he's not gonna have a foundation. So when the going gets tough and he needs something to fall back on, he has nothing. He just has MMA.
Hmm.
Versus if someone trains MMA but they have a karate background, they have a wrestling
Hmm.
background. So if someone takes me to the ground, I'm a wrestler. I'm gonna scramble with them and get back up.
Yeah.
Or if someone started stands with me, I'm a kickboxer, so I can just do that.
Yeah.
So like every kid needs a foundation before they try to go into MMA.
Yeah. In South Korea, it's like probably 50 or 70, 75% of kids do taekwondo. It's like, I didn't know that before, but that's from South Korea. It is like the national sport here, right? I mean, they take it so seriously. And if you see the kind of stuff that they do, they have the guys who could like jump up and hit four different things in like one spin. I mean, it's intense. But speaking of that, really quick, when when the Gracies first came out, Hoist, I mean, he was beating the snot out of everybody. And one of the things that made it so challenging was that people just did not have a counter to that specific style because it didn't make any sense. You have this skinny dude, weighs nothing, can't punch, doesn't really have any striking ability, and then he's going up against much larger people and he's able to beat them. And it was just like, wow, how in the heck did this happen? But then what happened is whenever people who had like a kickboxing background, once they got good at Brazilian jiu-jitsu or just jiu-jitsu in any kind, uh, there was really no competition. I mean, look at Hughes versus Gracie. I mean, he beat the bejesus out of him. And so, because they were just a little bit to a one-trick pony, they didn't have like a all-around game. So I think, yeah, as you talked about having some kind of discipline where you're really good at, I think back to what was her name, Ronda Rousey, where she was just excellent at judo, and then she had that going for her, and then she was also good at submissions and um, striking. So I think maybe that's what I want to close off in. If you could tell me about really what are like your strengths as far as I think you mentioned a little bit about submissions, but what are you looking to improve in, and what do you
Uh,
think maybe like some of your weakest? Yeah.
my what I want to improve in is I want to improve a lot on just my overall performance. Because and just my attitude in general. Because really, fighting these days, I'm really just bored. Like there's no purpose. All the people that I'm fighting are not really people that I'm interested in. So it's like, oh, I win, fine, win, lose, fine. I'm just gonna have fun. But like I haven't really got to meet that person that I want to fight, that I know is gonna make me bloody the whole floor. You know,
Hmm.
and and believe me, there's some tough guys that I've seen that's like good, tough, and I throw their name out there. I'm like, look, I want to fight this guy because you put me against this guy, I promise you, it will be a Hall of Fame fight in South Korea. They don't want to do it, so I say, okay. So I just improve on on myself and things like that. And the thing I can work on more is just trusting myself and my skills, because as far as on paper, if you look on paper, I'm a very well-rounded fighter. I have the grappling, I have submissions, I have wrestling, I have striking. But it's just really when it comes down to it, when I first came here and started MMA, there was a lot of bullying in the gym that I faced with
Mm.
one teammate a while ago. Uh, she really bullied me badly and destroyed my confidence.
Mm.
So it took me a while to really just build myself up. But like a lot of people, they build me up now and things. I have a coach that's an amazing coach, DK Jim. they build me up now. So even though people build you up, it only takes one. It only takes one person to destroy you,
Yeah.
and things like that. So, just really just trusting myself, to be honest.
I can imagine there's a lot of that toxic masculinity. I just, um, yeah, I was just watching, because I'm a nerd and I still love watching WWF, and I still love watching the background stuff of what happens here, because I like watching it, WWF, because I mean, I know it's fake and everything, but I like watching the actual competition, but then I also love like the drama stuff that's going on, where people are feuding and they're doing ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous things. I mean, some of the storylines that they've created is absolutely ingenious, But then the reality is that all that's going on, and you still have real life beef and real life drama going on, where some of these guys are actually legitimately fighting inside of the ring. They're fighting outside of the ring. There was a guy back in the day, his name was Nails, and he actually went into Vince McMahon's office and choked him there. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but everyone's trying to be number one. And I think that could be really toxic if you're going there, you're trying to improve yourself, and then you also have to compete for like who's going to be the number one in that place. Because I believe that was part of the problem that Game Bread and Chaos, Covington and George Masvidal, was that they're kind of about like who's going to be the alpha male, right? And I believe one of them's even called alpha male, if I'm not mistaken. Either the brand name or one of the fighting. I don't know, they call it that's not a dojo, right? That's not what you would call it. What do you call like
male?
the?
Oh, you mean what you call the leader? The
No, what do you call like the training school? Like just a gym, the training gym?
Just gym, yeah.
Okay. So there is one called alpha male. So I can imagine that'd be really difficult if everyone wants to get the biggest next fight. Everyone wants to be the person who is saying, I got the biggest, you know what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah, most definitely. Oh yeah, that's definitely true. Like, but the one thing I like about South Korea is that there is none of that. Like everyone gets to eat versus like trying to get the big fight or whatever like that. There are some fighters that do get like pretty decent fights and big fights, whatever, but it's not like other places, like really in Korea, it's rare to even see trash talking, to be honest. Like
Really?
yeah, mostly the people that trash talk are the fans. Like, cause I've seen some
Really?
people say some crazy stuff about me, and I'm like, dude, I don't even mess with you at all. Like, I just,
Oh,
so yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Do,
I've
do
seen some
you,
comments.
really quick, what do you think about that? Because I actually really like the trash talking, but I definitely do think that not George, well, he went overboard too, but Colby Covington just really says some stuff. It's like, whoa, what does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's just bringing people's moms and dads and kids and stuff into it. Like, it seems like that's a pretty bad line to cross, right? Religions
Uh,
and stuff.
yeah, like with that, personally, I don't do it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I get a fight, rather winning, losing, I always wish all my opponents the best,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Afterwards, after we fight, if they want to be brothers and train together later, that's fine, and that's the
Yeah.
way I want to carry myself because it's not that deep, But
Yeah.
uh, when it comes to trash talking, I'm against it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I understand,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
with Kobe,
It gets you
even with,
psyched up.
oh yeah, most definitely.
And
Because
especially
some
if
of
you're
the
trying
stuff
to
that,
sell stuff, I think it definitely has its place.
oh yeah.
But it's
Um,
like just you can get overboard with it, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like some of the stuff that was being said was definitely
Right.
unnecessary
Right.
and really unprofessional. But like, I
Right.
mean, I just look at it. I look at it. I laugh, but
Yeah.
it's something that I would never
Yeah.
trash talk anyone.
So I do got to say this something to you, man. To be my last advice I'm going to give you is you need to start trash talking, man, because you're way too nice, Brendan. You need to get like really mean. I've told you before, you're like a gentleman. You're like all soft spoken. You're all kind, all respectful. If you really want to start winning, man, you got to get like mean. You got to start talking some serious. Go up to people's mamas, people's great grandmothers. No, I'm just kidding. You're a cool guy. I mean, I think we got some in common. I think we understand a lot of things about each other. So, do you have any last thoughts before we head out?
The final thoughts, I guess, for me to say is that really not for me, but for everyone that's watching, anyone that's aspiring to do MMA or any combat sport, hard work pays off. Never give up, never quit. And even if you don't want to do combat sport, you can do whatever you put your mind to. There's always going to be someone that says you can't, but in your
Mm-hmm.
heart, engraved that you can. So it all comes down to what you have in your mind. You
Mm-hmm.
know, just if you think it, you can do it. If you believe it, you can do it. The moment you feel you can't, it will all fail. Just that's it. That's all I want to say with that.
So this is your Instagram, the
Oh yes.
Slayer MMA 20 at Instagram.
Oh
And
yes.
I will say this, I need to talk to your Photoshop person who's like spray painting your abs, because I'd love to send you a picture of me and they could spray paint that and just send it back to me. I mean, I will really appreciate that because, yeah, whatever you got going on there you're looking pretty good, man.
Oh, thank you. I didn't notice it until someone like when I started working out. I just was working out and someone said, "Dude, you have an 8 pack." I'm like, "Huh?
Yeah.
I guess I do." So,
So before I let you go, I do want to tell you one thing real quick. We support 5 different organizations, and we're actually going to we're actually going to be able to do something for what's going on now in the Ukraine. So that's something that we're looking into doing right now. But
okay.
but I do want to tell you the 5 organizations that we are supporting, and then as always the case is we'll make a donation in your name to one of those. So if you could just tell me which one interests you the most, or we're also throwing out Ukraine in there as well. Someone who's helping with some medical stuff there. But we have we have um, the first one we started off was working with was anti-bullying for the LGBT plus community. Okay, we have one for a group that helps Nazis and people in hate group deconvert in a very like respectful way. Let's see, another one is single mothers in South Korea. They help. It's, as you probably know, it's pretty hard. You have a divorced wife who was at one point a single mother. I had a single mother for a while, so you know that's pretty harsh here. We have a Palestinian. I'm just writing these down so I don't forget because there's a lot of them. But so Palestinian and Jew Peace Organization, and then the last one is Organization for North Korean Awareness. I'm going to repeat those one more time. We have anti-bullying, okay, North Korean, bringing awareness to that, single mothers, the Palestinian Peace Organization, and the people who help the Nazis deconvert from whatever it is they're doing. Which one of those interests you the
I'm
most?
gonna. The one that interests me the most off top would be anti-bullying.
Anti-bullying. Yeah.
Anti-bullying, and there's a reason for it. I don't know if I'm able to explain it right now, but there's
Yeah,
reasons why
please.
I chose. The reason why I chose anti-bullying for LGBT is
Uh-huh.
because for single mothers, I understand my mom was a single mom when raising me and my
Mm-hmm.
sisters,
Really?
etc. And yeah, the
Wow.
one thing I noticed is that my mom is hard, but it can be done. And there's always going to be
Mm-hmm.
a support system for single mothers, whether it's the dad and etc. North Korean
Yeah.
refugees, and things like that, North Korean wilderness, they have South Korea. The
Hmm.
Palestinian also has support. And
Hmm.
the neo-Nazis, not really a fan of Nazis. But however, I don't know like the whole backstory, so I don't know if helping would be good or bad or
Well,
something like
just one
that.
second. Just one second. Tonight. So this podcast was inspired by a guy named Daryl Davis, who is a black African American piano player who sat down and deconverted a lot of these guys who were KKK members and Nazis because he treated them with kindness and respect, and he helped them when they needed help. And he didn't say, "You guys are idiots, you guys are losers, you guys are racist, you guys are bigots, you need to change." He didn't do that. He just treated them with care and respect. So one of the guys he deconverted is his name is Jeff Scoop, and we have made quite a bit of financial help to him and his organization, not only just financially but logistically as well. So they do some really good work. I know it's a lot of options here, but if you choose two, I'll give you two since you're my guy from Korea. So yeah, you can choose two.
Okay, thank you. I would say anti-bullying for LGBT because I in South is it LGBT for South Korea, correct?
This is just in general.
In general, yeah, most definitely because LGBT, even though religiously and things, it may not be something that many people
Sure.
will agree on, but you
Hmm.
know, love is love, you know. So
Hmm.
you have to really look at it as like it's not the person's fault that they feel this way. So I feel like a little support showing that not
Yeah.
everyone thinks they're trash or something like that. That's
Yeah.
anti-bullying because you know, like I was bullied in school, so
Yeah.
I think that everyone should have that sort of support.
So it's
So
like, yeah, religiously, I am a missionary here. I'm a Christian, and I can tell you, like, religiously, this is not something that I agree with. Um, that I think is the best way for people. It's not something I'm 100% okay with. But on the other side of that, like uh, disrespecting, hurting people, things like that's just not the world we need to live in, because you never know. It could be we're in South Korea, we have mixed kids. It could be that issue. It could be being a mixed kid. That's the
oh
next
yeah.
thing that's coming up for our children. So that's one reason why I am so like, hey, we can agree to disagree. I can still show you love and respect. My mom was a minister's wife, and I know this very much strongly that she was personally very opposed to LGBTQ lifestyle. But if there was gay people who needed a place to stay, without question, she was willing to take them in and willing to be their friends and willing to help them when there was need. So there's not like this. Unfortunately, we live in a society where it's just this automatic assumption. If you disagree, you hate me, or you don't like me, or you don't want to help me. And that's just not the world I want to contribute to. So this is mine giving back in that sense. But that being said, I really want to thank you for joining us today. Uh, Brennan?
Hey, Brennan, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking like Brendan Fraser, but not the same.
Close, close, close.
Brendan Fraser. Okay. Yeah, I want to thank you for joining me today. And you can check us out at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Check us out at www.rigpodcast.com. If you're not subscribed, please do so. And you can find plenty more talks like this where, we're being respectful. We can agree. I'm a Protestant, you're a Catholic. So there's obviously some beef there.
Yeah.
But, we can sit down and we could be respectful to each other, and we could have, agree to disagree respectfully, and not feel the need to attack each other. And so, with that being said, I want to leave you with this outro, and we look forward to seeing you back again. And stick around for 1 minute, bro.